All right, friends, this is Donnie.
And Sandra.
And we are in Harnett County, North Carolina. And for those of you that don't know, we are attempting to stay in all 100 counties in North Carolina. And this makes County 48. County 48 out of the 100. And we are currently staying at Raven Rock State Park, and which is very nice. They have cabins, they have tent sites, and they have RV sites. And so please check them out online. Very nice park, and I could easily see us coming out here again in the future.
Yes.
But we'd like to share the fun facts about the counties that we come to, and we do location reviews in the places that we stay. And if I can find a urban legend or a ghost story, I will also share those. And so I did find one. And I actually am getting my information here through a number of sources, but the actual urban legend did come from www.northcarolinaghost.com. www.northcarolinaghost.com. You can see not only this one, but also others, and really nice website to check out for those of you that are into the urban legends and the ghost stories. But this one in particular is it's really has got a wild background to it, and I have gleaned information from a number of sources on this one, and I've kind of just spliced together all the information into one huge pile. So I have a tremendous amount of information to share with you guys. But this one here, I have not told Sandra anything about this ghost story, this urban legend. This is not a ghost story. This is actually an urban legend. And so it is called the Galinipper. The Galinipper. I hope I'm actually pronouncing that right. It's Galinipper. So I'm about confident it's Galinipper. And so what it is it's a giant mosquito, is what it is. It's a giant mosquito. Now, when we first got here today, we had gotten attacked by flies.
Little gnats.
It was large gnats.
Well, yeah.
And these gnats were big. And so, a giant mosquito would not be far-fetched if these gnats are this big. And so, but they were all around us. And so, but again, this is about a giant mosquito. And so, anyway, this is how the urban legend goes. Averisboro, that's Averesboro. I'm going to say that's Averisboro, lies just north of Fayetteville, on the eastern bank of the Cape Fear River, on the edge of the North Carolina coastal plain. While there's not much there now, at the beginning of the 19th century, when the Cape Fear was one of the major transportation routes through North Carolina, Averisboro was once a thriving hub, a home to a substantial lumber industry, profiting from the timber cut from the swamplands around the river. And as the lumber crews that worked in the area discovered, the mosquitoes in the woods around Averisboro are particularly large and particularly vicious. But there's one kind of mosquito that puts all the rest to shame, I should say. The Galinipper. The Galinipper is a mosquito as big as a hawk. The sting it carries on its head could slice all the way through a man's arm. A bite from the Galinipper could mean death. The mosquito could drain all the blood from a man in a single gulp. More than alligators, more than the bears, more than the panthers that hid in the trees, the lumbermen who worked the swamps feared the Galinipper. The lumber crews that worked the swamp were drawn from all over North Carolina. In the middle of the 19th century, two work crews, one from Chatham County and the other from Averisboro, found themselves side by side cutting trees and hauling the logs out of the swamp. Something of a rivalry grew between these two labor gangs, a rivalry that was helped along in no small part by the leader of the Chatham County gang, a man named Red Saunders. Saunders was a braggart. He was continually showing off and boasting about how he was the strongest, toughest man, not only in the swamp, but most likely in all North Carolina, maybe even the world. The men from Avery'sboro were getting a little tired of hearing Saunders brag, and frankly, his own men were beginning to think they may have heard enough, too. So, one day, some of the men from Avery'sboro decided it was time to give Red Saunders his due. They approached Red and admitted that sure, he was tough, but they bet that there was one thing in that swamp even tougher than him: the mosquitoes. They bet that Saunders wasn't brave enough to strip off his shirt, lie on the ground, and let the mosquitoes go to work on him for a full hour. Red Saunders said he could take anything. The men found a corner of the island where the thick clouds of mosquitoes were hovering above the still water. Then the workmen built a small, smoldering fire to give off smoke that would give them some shelter, and Red stripped off his shirt and lay face down in the mud, letting the mosquitoes go to work on his back. And work they did. Red's back was soon covered with the insects, digging in, drawing blood, and leaving itchy whelps behind. But Red didn't flinch. He just lay there, letting the mosquitoes feed on him, and only occasionally looking up to say, "I sure hope those mosquitoes over there ain't getting to be too much for y'all," to the men sheltering in the smoke. This went on, but when about 3/4 of that hour had passed, something happened. Red felt something bite into his back, sharper and more powerful than he had ever imagined. A searing, sharp pain bit into his flesh, and he heard one of the men in the fire, by the fire yell out, "Galinipper!" That was enough for Red. He howled, got up, and drove right into the water and stayed until he was good and sure the Galinipper was gone. When Red finally crawled out, wet, muddy, and itchy, the men all told him how lucky he was to have survived, and that the Galinipper was the size of an eagle had landed on his back. What Red didn't know was that what had really landed on his back was a red-hot coal from the fire that the men had thrown there, and that everyone else was laughing at him behind his mosquito bite covered back. Well, Red was quiet for a week. After that, he didn't brag too much, and he scratched a lot, but pretty soon he began to tell everyone about how he was the only man tough enough to survive an attack from a Galinipper. And so this is more about the story. I can see somebody doing that. I can see him doing that. The legend of the Galinipper was kept alive in a tavern in Avery'sboro, which for years had hanging from its ceiling a bird skeleton with a long pointed piece of carved bone in place of a beak, and a sign reading Avery'sboro Galinipper. The Galinipper lives on, and not just in legend, a species of exceptionally large and aggressive mosquito that's native to the southeastern United States. And the name of it, I'll have it come on the screen exactly what this name is of this. There's no way I'm going to be able to pronounce this. Has the common name of the American Galinipper. Now, I tried to find a picture of this skeleton. I couldn't find anything. I was hoping to be able to find something I could show everybody. But this is some more. Now, from here on is some more information that I have found about this urban legend and mosquitoes in general. And so I think you'll find it quite interesting. The Galinipper is a cryptid in the African American folk tradition. These creatures were said to be a species of giant mosquitoes so big that their bones could fence a 140-acre field. A popular telling of the legends has the creature get its bill out of a tree trunk. With the animal being large enough to clear 140 acres of land during the struggle, Galinipper tales were appropriated as a feature of minstrel shows, but have also appeared in American blues songs such as Mosquito Man by Blind Melon Jefferson in 1929. As far back as the Tuscaroran and Cherokee Native American tribes cite as ancient history the Roy Teyo, or Mosquito Man, have existed, living around the east seaboard to the United States, in particular the Carolina coast. This creature was said to have been 4 feet long with somewhat human-like qualities. The beast was noted for much. The beast was noted for much as its smaller insect cousin, draining blood from animals as its food. But the Roy Teyo could easily drain a full-size cow within seconds, leaving an empty husk in its place. When the species chose to attack and feed on humans, it was too much for the tribes. Although it took many centuries to eradicate the creatures, it was accomplished, but even the Native Americans were never quite sure if they got all of them. Flash forward to the 1850s, and the small and now non-existent town of Avery'sboro, it's noted for its taverns and pubs, frequented by travelers. One such wrote of his experiences in his personal journal. The traveler stated that in such a tavern he noted a strange skeleton was seen hanging from the ceiling. The remains looked like a cross between a small man and a mosquito, to include very long and sharp proboscis or feeding tube used by the insect to drain its prey's blood. When asked, locals told the traveler of the tale of the Skeeter Man. In time, the so-called remains vanished, as did the entire town, which simply died out in 1865. Largely held as legend and joke, it should be noted in the 1950s and 60s, several dozen cattle were reported by farmers in the region occurring over a 2-month period. The police waved it off as predators. The cause of death? What do you think? All the animals were drained of their blood. Wow. And so, now, this is some background on the Galinipper mosquito and mosquitoes in general. Now, these are just some mosquito facts. You can find mosquitoes worldwide because they can adapt to various climates and habitats, from the arid deserts to the tropical rainforest. The only place you won't find them is Antarctica. Only female mosquitoes bite, while male and female mosquitoes feed on plant nectar. Only female mosquitoes will bite humans and animals. The females require proteins found in the blood to develop and lay their eggs, and so that's the reason why they bite us. The distinctive buzzing you hear signaling one is nearby comes from their wings. Its wings can beat at a frequency of 450 to 600 times per second. Wow. That's amazing. That's absolutely amazing. Mosquitoes are attracted to certain scents, such as carbon monoxide, exhaled breath, lactic acid, sweat, and various body odors. This is why some individuals are more prone to mosquito bites than others. Yeah. These insects have compound eyes which consist of thousands of individual lenses, allowing them to have a wide field of vision. They can detect movement and changes in light patterns. While they are notorious for feeding on blood, their primary food source is plant nectar. I didn't know that. They play a role in pollination. Get this. They play a role in pollination as they visit flowers to get nectar. I never would have dreamed a mosquito would be that important to the environment. When a female bites, it uses sharp, elongated mouth part to pierce through the skin and locate a blood vessel. It can complete its feeding in as little as 3 minutes. I can't imagine one being on me that long. It seems like it takes way less than that for them to do with their business. The average lifespan is relatively short, ranging from a few weeks to a few months, depending on the species. However, some species can survive throughout the winter by hibernating. Mosquitoes kill more humans than any other animal. Get that. Mosquitoes kill more humans than any other animal. This is primarily due to their ability to transmit deadly diseases. In rural and suburban areas of the United States, the giant mosquito emerges only after a hefty rainfall or flood. Found in the states like Florida, Georgia, Louisiana, and Texas, it thrives in moist, low-lying areas like floodplains and swamps and marshes. These damp habitats provide the conditions for the mosquito. Larval development, which takes place in standing water, it lays eggs in wet earth, which sit tight until the next deluge. The Galinipper mosquito will, now this is not an urban legend, this is the real mosquito here, they call it that. The Galinipper mosquito will chase you and bite you anytime during the day. The blood in humans and other vertebrates contain nutrients critical to their egg development, just like we just heard just earlier. Because of how significant the mosquito species is, everything about them is on a larger scale, from the amount of saliva injected into the skin to the proboscis, the serrated mouth part size, to the amount of blood they draw. Expect their bite to be more painful than a typical mosquito bite, but milder than a bee sting. Itchiness varies from person to person. If you scratch a common mosquito bite, you can predict your reaction to a giant one. The largest mosquito in the world is, I'm going to put the name of this guys on the screen for you, but it is a species of elephant mosquito found only in Australia that holds the record for the world's largest mosquito, with adults measuring more than 1.3 inches. Get this, 1.3 inches. They are one of the few species, to get this, that don't bite. They don't bite. They don't bite humans. Even though the sheer size is enough to scare anyone, rather than snacking on human blood, this species feeds upon other larvae like the tiger mosquito, which does bite. This species doesn't bite because the females don't need blood like almost all other mosquitoes to lay their eggs. Instead, it gets its energy from plant juices and nectar. In 2018, the world record for the largest ever recorded was caught by a Chinese insect expert, this ZHAO Zhao Li, in southwest China's Sichuan province. This giant had a wingspan of more than 4 inches. Get that? I do have a picture of this, and I'm going to share it to everybody online. I mean, on the video. One of the largest mosquito families in the world. This bug could stretch out longer than a human hand with a wingspan of more than 4 inches. It had a 5 centimeter long body and a wingspan of 11.15 centimeters, 10 times longer than the average and 3 times longer than the average species. The most dangerous mosquito to humans on the planet is the, again, I'm going to put this name up on the screen for you guys, but it's Aedes aegypti mosquito. The mosquito is primarily responsible for the transmission of several harmful diseases, including, this is the dengue fever, dengue fever, a viral infection that can cause severe flu-like symptoms, including high fever, headache, joint and muscle pain, and rash. In certain instances, it can progress into more severe condition known as dengue hemorrhagic fever, posing a significant risk to one's life. The other one we've heard of before, the Zika virus, an illness transmitted by mosquitoes that typically induces mild symptoms in most individuals, but pose a significant threat to expectant mothers. Contracting the Zika during pregnancy can result in congenital disabilities such as microcephaly, characterized by an undeveloped head in newborns. Well, I've seen pictures of that. It's quite scary and striking. The other one, I'm going to try this one. It's chikungunya. It's CHIKUNGUNYA, a viral infection characterized by symptoms like high fever, joint and muscle pain, rash, and headache. While rarely fatal, it can cause prolonged joint pain and impact specific individuals' overall quality of life. And the last one we've heard of before and we've talked about is yellow fever. Yellow fever, a viral infection with symptoms like fever, jaundice, yellowing of the skin and eyes, muscle pain, and headache. And that, guys, is everything that I have on the Galinipper and the mosquito information. You got any questions?
I'm just glad we gave the dogs a heartworm vaccine.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Guys, I do hope that you've enjoyed this. These are one of those really interesting little urban legends and the background behind them. And I tell you, I swear the background on some of these is just as interesting as the urban legend itself. But at any rate, guys, we hope you've enjoyed it. Please look out for others that we have and make sure that you wear your off.
Yeah.
And if you're in the area that I've talked about here in Harnett County, make sure you wear, it probably wouldn't hurt to wear, what do you call it? A bulletproof jacket or something like that.
Definitely some long sleeves.
That's it. You guys take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.